space where you can just be, relax, relate, and set your soul free. Strong black woman, put that cape down. You're not superwoman, put on your crown. It's okay to cry, go ahead and breathe. Redefine strength, wanna heal, believe. Strong black woman, you are not alone. This is your space, your mental health zone. We got your back and we know you got us too. In a circle, we sisters, we got hope for you. You've been everything to everyone but you. Stop that shit, girl, shift that focus back on you. We breaking chains, ending mama's curses. This journey's about self-love, and girl, you deserve this. It's not a badge to hustle, always on the go. It's about boundaries, learning to say no. In this space, we uplift and grow. Together we'll find our peace, our inner glow. Strong black woman, put that cape down. You're not superwoman, put on your crown. It's okay to cry, go ahead and breathe. Redefine strength, gonna heal, believe. Strong black woman, you are not alone. This is your space, your mental health zone. We got your back and we know you got us too. In a circle, we sisters, we got hope for you. Strong black woman, redefine your strength. Mindful and melanated, just do you, baby, just do you, baby.
Hey girl, hey, welcome back to the Strong Black Woman Support Group. We are here with a very, very, very special guest. Super excited to have Dr. La-Toya Gaines here with us today. And we're going to have a very important conversation. We're going to talk about Black women's mental health, specifically around depression and seasonal affective disorder, SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And if you don't know what that is, that's okay, because Dr. Gaines is here to tell us what it is. But before we get into the conversation, Dr. Gaines, first of all, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today. And welcome to the Strong Black Women Support Group live stream. But before we get into it, why don't you tell the people who you are, what you do, and can you tell us what you think Black women can do to help support each other in their mental wellness journeys?
Ooh, all right. So my name is Dr. La-Toya Gaines. I am a licensed psychologist in the state of Michigan. I have a private practice in Michigan where I get the pleasure of working with Black women on their mental health journey. I do a lot of family counseling as well. And I am an Amazon bestseller. I wrote a journal. Yes, I did. It's called Nourishing the Strong Black Woman. It's a self-care journal. And yes. And I'm just, I love what I do. I love working with Black women. And I think your question was, what can Black women do to support one another on their mental health journey?
Yeah.
I really think we just got to start talking about it. We have to start talking about it. We keep a lot to ourselves. We keep a lot inside, and we don't talk about it enough to make it normal, and to reduce the isolation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I definitely think that we need to talk about it a lot more, and just letting folks, because for me, I like to share my story because I want folks to know that they're not alone.
Right.
You may feel alone, but you're absolutely not alone. And just want to say that Erica, who was watching us on Facebook, says she loves the cover of the journal.
Thank you. That was very, very intentional.
So let's just jump right into it. Let's just get into the nitty-gritty of it. Dr. Gaines, how do societal and cultural expectations like the strong Black woman trope affect Black women's mental health?
So, it puts a lot of pressure on us as women. It puts a lot of expectations on us, expectations to be a caregiver, expectations to take on more responsibilities,
Mhm.
expectation to be strong and to be stoic and to look unaffected by the things that are going on around us. I also think, the expectation that, we're that ride or die girl. We just, we're built to endure. We're supposed to endure suffering, and that's okay. And we're supposed to smile while we're doing it. And that's BS.
It is BS. And it's just like you said, like the riders are like that's supposed to be a badge of honor.
Yes.
Like we get praised for enduring struggle and pain and trauma. Like, oh, you girl.
Yes. And we've internalized that. It's
We've
not
internalized.
just right. It's not just the world and our families. We have internalized that and we see it as a badge of honor as well. And so as long as we sort of buy into that too, then
Mhm.
it is going to keep, we're teaching the next generation of girls and boys, right, to buy into this stereotype.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you said that we internalize it because a lot of the times I feel like we don't recognize when we internalize stuff because I know I did, and there's some women who have internalized misogyny, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's like we have to call a spade and we have to call it out. And like you said, if we don't have these conversations, we can't start the healing journey.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Dr. Gaines. What are some signs that Black women might be struggling with their mental health but may not recognize it or may not seek help?
So that's a really good question. And I think it was last year, I wrote a checklist that was titled Six Things That Black Women Don't Know About Depression. And
Mm,
one of the things is part of the reason it goes undiagnosed or it's underdiagnosed is because oftentimes practitioners are looking for a woman who is sad and tearful and depressed, and we don't show up like that, right? We
yeah,
look good on the outside for the most part. We look
yeah.
like we're okay, like there's nothing going on, right?
Mhm,
Hair done, makeup done, outfit looking good. We look fine. But on the
mm,
inside, we're sad, we're depressed. We are sad and depressed, but also we're angry and irritable, and that is one of those symptoms that gets overlooked. Also the somatic symptoms, and what I mean by that
mm,
are the physical symptoms that often manifest in Black women in depression. So that could be, headaches, body aches, that could be stomach problems, that could be um just the physical fatigue, the difficulty getting out of bed, the having to push yourself, right? We put the mask on, we show up at work, we do what we have to do, and then we come home and we crash out, right? So, looking for those symptoms. Also, there is a lot of using food to cope,
mm,
using food as a coping mechanism. So there can be problems with, eating past the point of fullness, or eating for particular emotions, eating because you're sad, eating because you're angry, eating because you're lonely or bored. So those are just a few symptoms that I think are often overlooked. And then the general sense of dissatisfaction and unhappiness, right? Because sometimes we feel like I have it all together. I've got the job that I want, maybe, I have my home, I have my space, I have my family, I have my partner, but I'm still unhappy and dissatisfied, and I don't really understand why. What's
right.
wrong with me? What's wrong with me?
Can I just say that what you just said, Dr. Gaines, was really validating for me.
Mm,
I'm gonna tell you a story. I might have been in my mid to late 20s, and I was already diagnosed with major depressive disorder, so I was seeing a relatively new psychiatrist. He was prescribing my medication, and I was talking to him, and I was like, I don't understand what's wrong with me. Like, I feel like that I'm just like irritable all the time, and I don't understand where this is coming from, because if people know me personally, I'm an introvert and I'm quiet and I'm reserved, but once you get to know me, I'm like super bubbly and I'm goofy and I'm funny, right? And so I was like, I'm like snapping at folks. I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm just irritable. And that was literally the word that I used. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. You know what he says to me? He says to me, maybe that's just your disposition. You might just have a personality flaw, Regina. And this is a licensed clinician, MD, psychiatrist prescribing my psych medication. So I'm like, okay, I'm this young Black woman, right? Barely into adulthood, right? And you're an older white man who has MD, ABCDEFG behind your name,
Right.
right? So I'm going to believe you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm so
And
sorry that happened to you, because and it happens with such frequency, and I don't know about you, but there are women who walk away from that exchange questioning themselves, questioning their knowing and understanding of themselves, and feeling like, well, maybe I must be wrong. I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on, but I'm trusting this professional, and that bleeds into why there's so much um fear and mistrust with medical professionals for Black women.
exactly. And so not only did I feel some type of way about myself, like questioning myself, I tried to change my clinician I was like, listen, I'm really don't feel comfortable with this person. Could we switch? Oh, we don't do that here.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I'm not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And me with a whole major depressive disorder diagnosis, walking around unsupervised for years because I refused to see another clinician. I just, like you said, that mistrust.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
tough. That was a tough time for me. I just want to honor the comments. She's trueness of the word says, hello. Yes, the eating is a seriousness in these areas. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Erica says, wow, what's wrong with me? Is so common for us to ask ourselves that. Exactly. Like you said, I've always been like an overachiever, successful and things like that. But I always felt something was wrong with me. Like, why am I so sad and like depressed privately, not publicly, because I look like I had
Mm-hmm.
it together, right?
Yes. Yes.
you know? Uh
Absolutely.
yeah. So I was like, what do I would ask myself, what do you have to be depressed about, Regina?
Oh, that one, right? And if you are depressed with all that you have going on, then there's something wrong with you. That the way that I feel is a weakness, is some sort of personal failure.
Mm-hmm.
I failed myself, I failed my family, because I shouldn't be this sad. I have everything I need, I have everything that I want. There must be something wrong with me.
Exactly. And that's how a lot of us feel, like Erica said. Um so what are some I think you touched on this a little bit. But what are some ways depressions manifest uniquely in Black women compared to white women or women of other ethnic groups?
Yeah, I think one of the major things is, when we hear the word depression, we think of this this sadness, this tearfulness, this melancholy that someone is going to present forward facing with. Black women don't show up that way, and so I think oftentimes when they finally make the decision to seek help, what winds up happening is the practitioner sees them, the therapist sees them, and they're like, you look okay, you look fine. But if you're not asking questions about mood, if you're not
Mm.
asking questions about sleep, appetite, eating, eating patterns. I'm trying to think there, one of my favorite questions to really get at the heart of whether or not I'm looking at depression in a Black woman is to ask questions about fatigue. And
Mm.
because the answer often is I'm tired.
All the damn time.
All the time. I'm tired. I'm so tired. And so querying that further. And oftentimes, what happens when I query that further is it goes beyond just I'm physically tired. It's a deep emotional fatigue, a deep mental fatigue that these women are describing. And I think that if practitioners don't push and get more detail around that, they miss an opportunity to further explore whether or not that woman is actually experiencing depression. And then you throw in, stereotypically, it's already hard for us to ask for help. We don't want to be perceived as an angry Black woman, right? And so and many clinicians don't even ask about anger and
Mhm.
irritability as part of the screening process. So that's another one that I think is really important. And I think for me as a Black woman asking those questions, it is a little disarming. They're willing to share that with me. They're willing to talk about it and not feel judged about it. There's sort of a feeling of, okay, finally somebody is getting it. Okay. And then they feel more at ease to release that information.
And that's why representation matters. That's why folks fighting to get a clinician that looks like themselves,
Yeah.
because like that empathy, that natural empathy that you have because you are a Black woman, you understand firsthand the societal pressures, the cultural pressures, how mental health issues feel in the body, how you present yourself publicly facing and publicly facing privately in your intimate relations, in your family relationships. So for you to ask that question, so a client coming in for the first time doing their intake and you ask that question, they're like, God, where have you been all my life?
Yes.
I can
Yeah.
only imagine.
Yeah.
The
It feels really validating.
Yeah, it's like a whole wait to exhale moment with your therapist.
For sure. Yeah,
You
it
know?
is. It's really validating, and they let their guard down.
Yeah.
And for many of them, it's like, okay, finally somebody understands. Finally, I'm gonna get the help and the support that I really, really need.
Yeah. And speaking of help, can you help us with by sharing some like strategies or coping mechanisms that you recommend for Black women who are, struggling with depression?
Yeah, and I know this is gonna sound so cliche, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Exercise, y'all.
Mm,
Exercise, movement, because part of what happens if you decide to take medication, and I do think that some women will need
yeah.
medication to help them, right?
Mm,
So this is not me condemning medication or folks who need it. There are some cases where it's necessary. However, there are some cases where simply moving and
mhm,
getting those neurotransmitters that are associated with mood, creating more of those in your brain gets you in a better space, right? So that's number one. Get up, get moving. The second thing is, we don't heal in isolation, we heal in community. So, talking about what's going on with you, connecting with other people. And I know there's all this stuff on the internet about how hard it is to make friends in your 30s and 40s and all of that. Go find a group, go find a support
exactly.
group, get involved in, a hobby, get in the space with other people. And you don't have to tell them your business, because I know that that's another thing too. We don't, we're not sharing all of our all of our stuff, and I get that. But connecting with other people just because you have some similarities, because you share an interest, could be a book club, could be a cooking
Mhm.
club, I mean, could be an exercise club, it doesn't matter. Get involved. Earlier this year, I decided, because I became an empty nester, I started like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to have some time for myself. And I took roller skating lessons as a grown up. I know, right? But here's what happened on the first day. The first day I arrived, I think there were 10 of us in this class, all women, right? All women, all different ages, ethnicities, races, all the things. Do you know every single one of those women talked about finding something for themselves?
Wow.
Every single one of them talked about finding, and the oldest woman in that group was a 70-year-old Black woman.
Wow.
Yes, it was amazing. So, I met these women. It was awesome, and we bonded, and the discussions we had before and after class, it bonded us. The experience bonded us. So don't be afraid to, try something new, meet some new folks. Um, I'm also going to say, look, journaling, get those thoughts and feelings out. Get them out. Sometimes we're sitting with stuff that we really need to reflect on and process. So don't be afraid to, spend some time journaling.
Mhm.
That can be a great private release
Mhm.
for the emotions that we tend to keep bottled up.
Thank you so much for sharing those tips. I know for me, as a heavier set woman, I would avoid exercise at any, not because I was gonna say not because I'm lazy, not because I'm not lazy, but that's actually not true. I'm pretty lazy, but because as a pretty big woman, it was uncomfortable and it actually hurt, right? So, but I noticed that when I would just do something simple, like go for a walk,
Yes.
it felt, especially outside,
Yes.
that felt
Yes.
so good. And I'm like, oh, I need to do this more often. And then I don't do it for like a week. But I'm getting better. I'm getting better, folks.
Well,
I'm getting better.
but think about, if you had an accountability partner that you were walking with, right? And I
Yeah.
want, to your point, when I say exercise, I'm talking simple movement, and it can be a simple walk around the block,
Yeah.
a walk to the park, walking to the store, just getting out of the house. Oftentimes, and this is one thing that I do with many of my patients is, even if you're not in a good space, get up, shower, get dressed, leave the house. I don't care if it's for 20 minutes, leave the house.
Facts.
Yeah,
Facts.
because the staying in, the isolation, the cutting yourself off, it just intensifies that feeling of loneliness, withdrawal, and isolation. You get in your head, right? Now you are talking negative to
Yep.
yourself and about yourself, and there's nobody that you're interacting with to sort of interrupt that pattern. So
Exactly.
getting out of the house, interacting with people, even if it's just a little bit, is can be really good for
Mhm.
your mood.
Totally agree. And I just want to like piggyback off what you said about like groups and stuff. Like there's power in groups. That's why I started the Strong Black Woman Support Group. Like I would joke and say, I started this selfishly because I needed someone that I can talk to that can relate to what I'm going through because as you say, we look like we have it together. We look quote unquote high functioning
Yeah.
when in actuality I was really living with suicidal ideations on a daily basis
Mm,
for most of my adulthood. I would say
yeah.
it stopped this year,
And
literally.
nobody and
And
nobody and
nobody
nobody
knew.
knew.
Nobody knew. And so yeah, that's why I started the group. And Erica made a comment. She's actually part of the group. We do a simple thing called co-working. So for all of us girlies who work from home, that can be isolating, right?
Yes.
And so we just go on Zoom. The folks who are part of my group, we just go on Zoom. We put our camera on. Sometimes we turn it off, but we mute ourselves and we just sit and work.
Mhm.
Cause just having like just another face
Yeah.
there on the screen, like we'll chime in every now and then. We'll unmute and be like, "Girl, my boss said something crazy," and we laugh about it, and then we go back on mute and go to work. You know what I mean? And again, for us work from home girlies, I know for me for a long time, I would literally like if I had a meeting at 9 o'clock, I got up at 8:55.
Yeah.
No shower, no
Yep.
bra, no nothing.
Yep. Just roll up out of bed and
Roll out of bed.
here we go.
Here we go. So like Dr. Gaines said, take the shower, put on something, nice as if you was going to the office, even if it's just from the waist up. If you want to wear your pajama bottoms as the bottoms, that's fine. But like from the waist up, look good. And Erica, like I said, who's part of our group who does the co-working with us, she said, I've met some really good girlfriends from a meetup group. Get the meetup app and find groups that interest you. That's a good idea.
Yes.
Is that where you found the roller skating group? Was it meetup?
No, I just decided I wanted something physical. I wanted to get into something physical. And I remember as a kid, I loved roller skating.
Yeah.
I did some as a teen too, but I missed it. And I did a Google search in my area and found a black owned roller skating rink, and they did lessons for adults only. And I joined and I loved it. I had a really good time, met some really incredible women. And it was really it was centered around me, and it was
Mhm.
strictly for me. And sometimes we have to get comfortable doing that, something that is
Yeah,
just about you.
exactly. Just about you, not your group, not your spouse or your partner. Trueness of the word says this is really good information, ladies. Yes, on the journaling. I have Dr. Gaines' journal as well. Trueness, tell us what you love about the journal. Tell us, please do. Share with the people.
Thank
Um,
you. That's my good friend, Miss Eleanor. Thank you so much.
hey,
And I'm
Miss
happy to
Eleanor.
see you here on this live.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And listen, ladies, like journaling doesn't have to be a whole to do. I know the word, like I know it sounds daunting, like I have to pour my feelings out and I got to be all grammatically correct and spell all the
No,
words
you don't.
right. Listen, you can get like Dr. Gaines's journal. You can get that. It's a guided journal. It has prompts. For me, I don't particularly use guided journals all the time. Sometimes I just have this a regular blank notebook and I do what they call bullet journaling, like
Yep.
like literally just bullet points. It could just be one word on the bullet point.
Yep.
I just want to just get what I'm feeling out of my head, and it may not even make sense.
It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. It's your journal, right? It's
Exactly.
private. You don't have to, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. And so, we let go of these, archaic thoughts or patterns of journaling. You don't have to do it
Yeah.
every day. You don't have to do it, for an hour every day. You don't have to do it every week. Like, let go of that, right? If you are interested in creating a habit of journaling, that's one thing. And maybe it just starts with taking 10 minutes to jot a few things down. You don't have to write incomplete sentences. Maybe you're just
Mhm.
pouring out thoughts, and as they come, you're writing them. You can write a bullet point list. It doesn't have to be a paragraph. It doesn't have
Right.
to have punctuation. It doesn't have to be spelled correctly. All of these things sort of trap us into this idea that journaling has to look a specific way, and it
Right.
doesn't. It's yours, and you make it work for you. There are times when I use a prompted journal, and then there are other times where I like a blank book. I want to
Exactly.
just, whatever I'm thinking or feeling that day, I want to be able to write about it. But I do think that there are uh, prompted journals that give us the good prompts
Mhm.
to help us, talk through or think through, process through some specific things. And those questions, those journal prompts can act as interventions to make us think about things in different ways.
Exactly, exactly. So we're midway through this conversation. This is a really, really good
It
conversation.
is.
Yes, I want to switch gears and talk about seasonal affective disorder. But before I do that, since we're on the topic of the journals, Dr. La-Toya Gaines will actually be a speaker at the fifth annual Strong Black Women Redefined conference. And I'm super excited about that. She is going to talk about the strong Black woman trope and how we can dismantle it, right? But she has gifted two of her journals. And so we're going to raffle these off during the conference. She has not only blessed us with her expertise in speaking form, but also in her journal. So I'm super excited about that. So if you haven't gotten your ticket to the Strong Black Women Redefined conference, make sure you do that. And Miss Eleanor says, I have a self care day every Wednesday, and it's so important
Love
to have. Yes,
I love
so
that.
important. So important. So let's switch gears a little bit. So can you tell us, Dr. Gaines, what is seasonal affective disorder and how does it differ from other forms of depression?
So, simply put, seasonal affective disorder is just depression that can intensify as the seasons change, right? So we're in the process of moving into fall and then winter will come. And oftentimes, what happens is, it gets darker earlier, it's colder, we're inside more. So oftentimes, my patients who have a depression diagnosis, we start talking about what are we doing to be proactive
Mm,
to manage depression. We start talking about that in September, so that by the
yeah.
time October rolls around and it's getting darker earlier, it's beginning to cool off, there's a plan in place to deal with the changes that are coming. So it's a seasonal pattern of depression, if you will, that tends to worsen in the fall and winter months.
Do you mind sharing with me some of those like proactive treatment plans that you kind of go over with your clients?
No, sure. We start talk. So a lot of times with depression, and we just talked about it. There's the isolation, there's the withdrawal, right? And so we start talking about what are you doing? What's the plan to be proactive to reduce withdrawal and isolation? Right. So identifying a specific accountability person that you can talk to, so this is somebody who you are pretty open with about your history with depression. And they know that if you start ignoring phone calls or text messages or
Mm,
canceling on them, they know that they need to pick it up and really like, hey, what's going on? Don't accept those excuses, right? So they can act as an accountability partner that says, hey, I noticed that you're different. What's going on? Right. And so that person can really help with that. Also, being really intentional about scheduling specific activities. This could be volunteering activities,
ooh,
this
I
could
love
be
that.
exercising, this could be um taking a class. I have a patient who takes a photography class during this time. That gets them out, that gets
Yeah.
them connected. It gives them something consistent to do, so
Mhm.
that they're getting out of the house at least once a week for that particular activity. We start
Mm,
talking about what are signs for you that you're entering into a depressive episode. So if you are recognizing that, what, I'm not as active on social media, or I'm ignoring text messages from friends, or I haven't accepted many invites, right? Those are signs that you're beginning to withdraw, you're shutting down. Now that you've noticed that that's the pattern, what's the plan for dealing with that? So what do you have in place? So oftentimes it really is being very intentional, using
Mhm.
affirmations even, right? So part of the work that I do is really helping people to understand their pattern of depression, because depression looks very different for everyone, right? So, I may have, 10 patients I'm treating with depression, but their depression looks 10 different ways. And what works for some people will not work for others, right? So how are we dealing with that?
See, this is what it looks like when you have a Black woman as your therapist. Okay, that's what this looks like.
Oh yeah, we
Child,
doing we doing the work. We
we
we we
do
working. You want to feel better, and sometimes it really is understanding the pattern, right? Because some people come in and they're like, okay, I got to get rid of this depression. And to your point, it's something that you have lived with. And so how do we help you understand your depression in a way that not that allows you to live with it, so that it doesn't overtake you, you don't succumb to it,
exactly.
right? So I want to empower my patients to feel like, no, I'm very familiar with my depressional patterns, and I feel empowered and confident about, I know what to do, and I know the signs that I'm entering into a depressive episode, or that the
Mhm.
seasons are about to change. That's really hard for me. So I need to have a plan in place. But in Michigan, by the end of January, my folks who are in a seasonal pattern of depression are struggling. And so
Yeah,
if we know that, then we got a plan for that. What are we doing
exactly.
to plan for that, so that you don't get into a very down or low mood where you can't get out of bed, you're missing work, you're not okay? How do
Right.
we avoid that as best as possible?
Yeah, oh my goodness. I feel like I'm getting a free I feel like I'm getting a free session. Don't bill my insurance, Dr. K.
Let's go.
This is some good stuff. She's dropping some gems here. And like I said, this is what it looks like when you are seeing a therapist who understands your plight, who is intentional about healing her community. Like I have had some clinicians, like I said, who have not only overlooked my symptoms, but dismissed my symptoms. And so it's just really refreshing to see how you treat your clients and your patients. And this is why it's important, folks, when you are starting, if you're starting a new journey with a talk therapist, that you ask the necessary questions to see the modalities that they use, to see how they can treat you. Because at the end of the day, let's just keep it real, there aren't a lot of clinicians of color, there aren't a lot of Black clinicians, and there aren't a lot of Black women clinicians. So you may have to see someone who is not a Black woman. So you want to be armed with the right questions to ask, like, hey, I'm going through seasonal affective disorder. um how would you treat that? Like, what is your modality? Like what plan would you have for me? And
Right.
if they ain't giving you this answer that Dr. Gaines just gave us, it's time to interview a new therapist. But can you tell me, how can cultural factors, like living in urban areas with limited access to like nature, impact the development of seasonal affective disorder in Black women?
Oh, that's a great question. um you know I think it can be, it's a challenge. I mean, that nothing short of it. It's a challenge. And this is again where I think community becomes
Yeah.
paramount, right? So that you're not alone with it. You're not isolated. You have folks who are, checking on you, who are normalizing your experience, who aren't
Mhm.
going to let you fall through the cracks, right? And so getting connected, in that situation, getting connected to online communities can be, a survival tactic under those circumstances. And then, there's some really good folks online, not everybody, but there are some well-trained clinicians who are giving good and useful information online, connecting those communities, right? Look to see who your therapist is following and see, what information those folks are sharing. But I think for in that scenario, top choice is staying connected, get involved in community so that you're not alone and isolated.
Yeah, that's really, really good. So let me ask you this, Dr. Gaines. Does the holidays do the holidays play a role in seasonal affective disorder? Because I know for me, like the weather doesn't really affect me, but I remember I would get depressed during like specifically tied to like holidays.
Mm.
So is that a thing?
Yes. I mean, think about it. Oftentimes, unfortunately, our families are, you know, can be the cause of much of our trauma. And so,
Mhm.
sometimes holidays means interacting with certain family members who are harmful or can be toxic. It also means having to deal with comments about, your appearance, your weight, your size, whether or not you have kids, where your man at, where your girl at, where, all the things, right? Because family, they 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 don't hold their tongue.
No
And
boundaries.
so, and also patterns of grief. Holidays can be a time where we don't where we're missing certain family members, or that loss feels really heightened. Um and we don't always, well, again, not talking about these things, right? So yes, it is, the holiday season can be really hard, and you throw on that the pressure to, create the perfect holiday experience. You
Yeah.
want to cook the perfect holiday meal, you want to get the perfect gift, you want to, get the perfect decorations. And that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And it can be really, really hard. That perfectionism shows up, and we become overwhelmed with getting everything right, and making everything perfect, and
Yeah.
create a lot of trouble for ourselves.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, so thank you again for validating me.
Yes, it's real. And this is why talking about it is so important, because, oftentimes we think we're the only ones, right? This must be me. There must be something wrong with me. There must be something, I must not be understanding this correctly, or doing it right, or doing it enough, or whatever. And then we compare ourselves to other folks without
Yeah.
really understanding their journey or their story,
Yeah.
right? We look at a thing and we make a ton of assumptions. So when we start talking, when we open up the dialogue, it's like, you too, I'm not
Mhm.
the only one.
Mhm.
And it feels really validating and affirming to have someone say to you, yeah, girl, me too, me
Yo,
too.
facts, facts. And Miss Eleanor says, yes, unable to have family members you wish were there due to lives lost and relationships being broken. Like for me, and to your point about speaking about stuff and not speaking about stuff, like now that you're saying all this and now that I'm thinking about it, I know like Thanksgiving and Christmas is tough for me because my my maternal grandmother is no longer with us.
Mm.
And I don't want to talk to my mom about it because I don't want to make her sad. So I've never even said, like, this is like the first time I'm ever saying it. And of course I say it on the internet, but whatever, Regina. Hopefully my mom don't watch this episode.
But you know what? And to your point, let me say this. The chances are your mom misses her mom too. So
Yeah,
your belief that bringing her up is going to make my mother more sad or make her sad, right? She probably is missing her mother too. And what if talking about your grandmother brings comfort to both of you,
yeah,
right? Because it doesn't have to be just about losing her. You can talk about, your favorite stories about her, your favorite memories of her, something she used to say all the time and made everybody laugh, or her favorite story to share. Like, there are things that you can talk about. Look at that smile you just had. There are things that you can talk about your grandmother with your mother that brings you two closer together, and it lets you both know that I'm not suffering by myself. I'm not the
yeah,
only one who misses her.
yeah. Oh my God, I'm getting teary eyed up in here on the internet.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, I miss Big
virtual
Mom.
hug.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I will have that conversation because I
Yeah.
do miss her.
And she misses her mama too.
I know, and that's the thing. Like, I know she doesn't, but like I was like, I don't want to make her even more sad and bring it up. And
Or maybe knowing that you miss her too could be really comforting.
that is a good point. See, that I never thought about.
Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
never thought about.
Yeah, and we grieve people who are even still here that we may not be talking to,
True.
right? So there's been some type of rupture in the relationship, and we're not speaking to them, or they're not speaking to us, or whatever, and but we still miss them.
Hmm.
You miss them even
Yeah,
though there's this rupture, and you may not even know how to repair it, if it's repairable, but it doesn't stop you from missing them.
that's true. Yeah, because I know I there's a lot of grown millennial children who have gone no contact
Yeah.
with some parents. And, I've seen like YouTube videos and TikToks about it. And, for me, in my personal opinion, for someone to go no contact, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so it's not that they don't want to be around their parents. They feel like they had to set up that boundary. So I know that's probably something that folks are grieving, as the holiday season approaches us. So yes, I just want to thank Miss Eleanor. She says it's okay to cry. I'm giving you a virtual hug. So
Yeah.
thank you, ladies. I really do appreciate that. Um, but I just wanted to, we only have about 10 minutes left in this conversation, our lunchtime conversation, and I want to take it back to the journal if you don't mind. I'm like promoting the heck out of this journal because
Thank you. I love it.
listen, we need stuff like this. You know what I
Yes.
mean? We definitely do. And so Eleanor says, answering your question, Regina, about the journal, what I love about Dr. Gaines's journal is that you must reflect first, and then the prompt which makes you think through what is actually going on in our lives. I believe in writing what I feel. So journaling is literally my memory on paper, allowing me to look
Mhm.
back over the promises of God and His Word in my life, as well as my prayers, visions, and dreams that I wrote down. So this is a great one because you also have much room to journal.
Thank you for that feedback. I really appreciate that. And she's right. The goal is to get you to reflect and to get you to use the prompts to really make you think it through. And I actually have a 7-week group that starts October 22nd. Registration is open, and what I'm doing is walking you through the journal with a group of women. Again, healing happens in community. And so, the women that join this group, we're going to use the journal, and we're going to go really deep, beyond what is on those pages. But the journal will be our guide to get you to reflect on, how the different facets of being a strong Black woman is showing up in your life. Where did you learn this? How do you deal with emotions? How do you deal with vulnerability? How can you begin to shed this burden? Because it's a burden,
It's a
and
burden.
we're carrying it, and it looks like we're carrying it well, but we're not. So, for those of you that are that really identify as a strong Black woman and are interested in doing a deep dive, that group starts October 22nd. We're going to meet, and it's going to be really awesome. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, so as you can see on the screen, Dr. Gaines has her Instagram handle on the screen. So is that the easiest way for folks to learn more about it or get in contact with you?
Yes, actually, I'm going to stretch my my muscles here, and I'm going to see if I can drop the link in the chat.
Yep.
But yes, on my Instagram, there's a link tree, and you can go right there and find the group. But I'm really excited about this group because it's an opportunity to take this journal one step further. And everyone who registers and participates in the group will get a free digital copy of the
Ooh,
journal. Yes,
nice.
you get a free digital copy of the journal to use alongside. So um, it's gonna be awesome. And I'm, my goal is to keep it small, so hopefully about 10 to 12 women,
Okay.
so
That's a
that
good
there's
size.
yeah, so that there's room for, some good in-depth discussion, and opportunity for support and community. So
Love that. So we do have the website up right now, but like she said, if you go to her Instagram, you could look on her link tree as well and click on the link. um I forgot what I was going to say just that quick. Oh, I'm just, oh yeah, the conference. So Dr. Gaines is going to be at the conference, and her workshop is called The Brave Space: Embracing the Power of Vulnerability. And I am super duper, like superwoman, super duper excited about this. Um, can you, before we go, can you tell us why you chose that title and what the workshop is going to be about?
yeah,
Don't give them too much because they got to register, but just
yes,
give them the
yes,
high level,
yes.
high
A little
level.
tease, a little tease. I chose this title because as Black women, we just don't talk about vulnerability enough, and many of us have had some type of trauma around being vulnerable, whether we
Mhm.
have been, somebody has taken that vulnerability and abused it, or whatever, but we have not had really good experiences with that. And I think it's really important to talk about vulnerability and authenticity and how those two things come together, right? Because when we're authentic, if we're walking around with this mask on, then we're denying and suppressing parts of ourselves to ourselves. It's not just the people out here in the world, it's to ourselves. So when we are embracing vulnerability and being brave in doing that, not just with ourselves, but in our relationships, it deepens our relationship and knowing of ourselves, but it also allows people to know us. So we're really going to dig into, how do I do that? How do I do that? Because I have been hurt and I want to be vulnerable. I want to show up authentic, but that feels really scary. So we're gonna dig into that.
Yes. I'm so looking forward to that because I was a guest on someone else's podcast, and she was asking me about self-love, and I said, "Well, you can't love someone you don't know, and I didn't know myself till I was 35 years old.
Mm, mm,
I'm walking around being a shell of Regina Renee."
that's
That
powerful.
it
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I noticed that my depressive episodes and symptoms got better when I started living authentically and started living for
Mhm.
myself
Yeah.
and not for what society thinks I should be or the culture told me to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So listen, if
Yes,
ladies, if
I
y'all feel
do.
the same way, then register for this conference and definitely tap into Dr. Gaines' workshop because it's very important. And vulnerability is not weakness. Because to me,
Yes.
that because even today, in real time, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to cry. In real time. you know,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. And all of us can relate to missing somebody that we've lost. But, there is this strict adherence to stoicism and showing up strong. So crying, you don't do that. And you certainly don't do that in public, right? You know what I mean? We get praised for, not crying when the situation calls for it. We get praised for not showing emotion like normal people would.
Right.
It's weird. It's
It's so
so
weird.
weird.
That's a good word. It's so weird. It is
Because we
so
would
weird.
welcome that emotional expression in other people.
Other
We would
people.
comfort them, right? We would comfort them. We would let them know that it's okay, right? Eleanor just did that with you too, right?
Exactly.
We normalize it, but for ourselves, it's like, oh no, I'm not gonna do
No,
that.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. So I know we're going to be closing out soon. I just released a new blog on my website on seasonal affective disorder and the strong Black
Ooh,
woman.
yes,
So
yes.
I'm going to drop the link
Okay.
here so that the audience is able to find the blog article on my website. But it talks specifically to strong Black women who are dealing with seasonal affective disorder.
Thank you so much. I'm actually going to check out as soon as we hang up. I'm actually going to check this out, this blog out. You dropped so many gems during this conversation. This was less than an hour. Can you imagine being her client? Child.
Look,
Can
and
you?
this is just a taste of what you're going to get in that group. The groups are
Yeah,
7 weeks, an hour and a half, and it's really going to be good. So I appreciate that. This is what it looks like when you love what you do and you are answering the call placed on
absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. So, Dr. La-Toya Gaines, thank you so much again for joining us on this live stream, the Strong Black Woman Support Group. I cannot wait to finally meet you in person
Yes,
at the
yes,
Strong Black Woman Redefined Conference next week. Oh my gosh, 8
yes.
days, countdown.
It's right here. It's right here.
Ooh, I'm so excited. Well, thank you again. And thank you everyone for
Thank
tuning
you.
in to the live stream. I hope you learned a lot. Make sure you check out Dr. Gaines' website if you want to get that group, if you want to tap into that group, if you want to get her journal. If you want to read her article on the strong Black woman and seasonal affective disorder, make sure you check it out. She put all those links into the chat. So I hope you enjoyed our lunchtime discussion. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Rest. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
All right.
You've been holding it down for so long, carrying the weight, staying so strong, but it's time to let go.